and confidently living through just about any survival situation. Is survival and gardening, off-grid living, medical knowledge, or even natural or man-made EMPs on your list of personal concerns? Do you have your documents and your personal information in a safe place in your hands where you know where it is? Well, check out our preloaded EMP-proof thumb drive. Over 3 gigs of survival documents and how-tos, plus the USDA offline food preservation website, and much, much more, including a surprise bonus we just can't tell you about here. With plenty of room left over to store your most important documents. Imagine if a megavirus or a computer failure took out your bank, or all the banks for that matter. Are your banking records safe in your hands? So when they get things fixed and repaired, you can say, hey, look, this is what I had. You have it. I want it back. Is your personal data safe? Family records, addresses, phone numbers? Well, squeeze on over to freedomslips.com. Yes, that's www.freedomslips.com. Click the banner on the homepage for the EMP-proof bullet drive to get the full scoop of everything that we offer. So, folks, keep your data safe for your peace of mind. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
Good evening. Since 1919, the League of Lady Conspiracists has been giving advice to the public on simple measures by which the increasing menace of mind control, already so prevalent in today's society, may be thwarted.
Yes, that's www.freedomslips.com. Click the banner on the homepage for the EMP-proof bullet drive to get the full scoop of everything that we offer. So, folks, keep your data safe for your peace of mind. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
Good evening. Since 1919, the League of Lady Conspiracists has been giving advice to the public on simple measures by which the increasing menace of mind control, already so prevalent in today's society, may be thwarted.
Yes, that's www.freedomslips.com. Click the banner on the homepage for the EMP-proof bullet drive to get the full scoop of everything that we offer. So, folks, keep your data safe for your peace of mind. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
Since 1919, the League of Lady Conspiracists has been giving advice to the public on simple measures by which the increasing menace of mind control, already so prevalent in today's society, may be thwarted.
All right, folks, it's time for Shine Side Out with You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're here. Take it away, guys.
Welcome to Shiny Side Out with
Dave
and Mackie, live from the Revolution Radio Studios. There you are, unmuted. Studios in Sydney. You know you can join us now in the chat room at freedomslips.com and follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Check out shinysideout.net for archives, show notes, and links we paste into the show and chat during each show. Listen to us on FM WZZR 101.3 in Kentucky, or via one of these apps on your smart device. There's Revolution Radio, TalkStream Live, TuneIn.com, Radio Tuner, Speaker.com, and pretty soon iHeartRadio too. Also, you listen on a Grace Tabletop Digital Radio or receiver-enabled GM Car Radio. So we're on all of those platforms as well. And coming soon via Real Radio FM and Live 365, all are revolutions in radio. So there's a whole bunch of new platforms for you guys. The number to call in if you're in the United States of America is 347-688-2902, or if you are using Skype, just add Freedom Screen, one word. Thank you, Solaris, for another awesome show. In fact, there's a bit more of a call out or shout out I have to give to Solaris later on, but it was a great show. Thank you very much. Dave, how have you been? And sorry, but I've got a bit of a sore throat. I have to apologize. It's my husky radio voice.
No, you're sounding great. Yeah, no, it's awesome. Thanks, Mackie, for everyone watching on YouTube. The second test of the new software. I'm thinking this is going to work for us. Hawk next week will set it up so we go through his channel, which is fantastic. I'm looking forward to doing this maybe more often. I think maybe it can add something else, and it certainly doesn't. It requires me to do no post production, and I can just upload the video to YouTube afterwards. Hey, I was going to say, have you seen we talk about this every single week, right? The crazy weather.
Oh yeah.
Around a planet, and last night
it's getting crazier.
It is. Last week we talked about the hottest day, hottest week, hottest month, hottest quarter, hottest 6-month period, hottest all-time 12 months in a row for 2013 in Australia, and the hottest year globally in the world.
Yep.
What's funny about that is that this week Perth has over 38-degree temperatures, I think, for 7 days straight. Last time that happened was 1941, and in Adelaide they're going to have 3 or 4 days over 40 degrees Celsius, and you don't want to be there. They're even saying that it'll be in the high 40s.
Yeah.
Not mid 40s, high 40s. And Sydney's highest known temperature recorded, scientifically was 45.9, and it's coming, Mekki. This hot weather's coming, and I'm setting everything up, so I'm shading all the windows and everything because this is going to be a scorcher. To add to that, I was watching a documentary just a little while ago, and it said, this is the weird bit. It was on the super typhoon Haiyan that just happened back in November, all that time ago now. And they said this is the oceanographers, one of the head oceanographers on the planet. He said that the ocean temperature in the last 30 years has increased by half of 1 degree Celsius.
That's a lot.
They expect it will get up to 4 degrees above that.
That's crazy.
It'll increase another 4 degrees. Now, at the moment, the two super storms, both in the northern hemisphere at the moment, had developed over warm water. Haiyan was lucky enough to stay over warm water and stay as a Category 5 when it hit landfall, but Katrina downgraded to Category 3 when it made landfall. It hit some cold water. Needless to say, they're the first two. So the trend here is the hotter the water, the worse the storms. And,
of course they are.
And it's not just the wind or the rain that kills more people, it's the storm surge. So,
absolutely. No, it's look, as we speak now about changes in weather and temperatures being, not what they were and changing as well. There are a number of knock-on effects which Dave has just touched on here as well. So one of them is, of course, let's call it wind chill and cold temperatures, right? Mm-hmm. There's another knock-on effect, as the water rises, not only does it cause more frequent storms and such, especially if the water is warmer, it also disappears islands. Kiribati is on track to disappear within the next 20 years because it's only like a meter or two above sea level, right?
Well, what happened to Sandy Island?
Yeah, exactly, right?
It's gone.
So yeah, it'll get worse because most of the Polynesian or Micronesian islands are in fact just above sea level, right? So that's why the tsunami hit most of the islands very, very hard when it did happen. Same in the Indian Ocean, by the way. All those islands that are there, we like to go for holidays. Beautiful. Usually reefs or atolls, have sandy white beaches and palm trees. If you look closely, you will notice they're not very much above the waterline. You don't have to hike up a day to get there. They're right at the water. So all of those will disappear. If you have inland property anywhere near the coast, chances are it will become coastal property in the next 50 years. And then another thing is, as things are getting colder during winter, because the thing is this, global warming and global cooling don't necessarily indicate or postulate that it has to become warmer or colder in general. It is more about extremes.
It's
we are
climate
experiencing
change. It's change to the climate. We've been through such a steady climate that we've been able to evolve technology, right? We've worked on technology because we've had food sources. We've been able to build cities. When you get erratic climate, which is like extremes, then you're less capable of doing those things. And I have to say, it's a little sad. It's a little sad that that's the case, yeah?
That's exactly right. And this is the key thing, though, guys, right? We've been experiencing extremely benign weather for a number of, few thousand years now. I mean, there were some more extreme weather periods within that. But overall, the last, let's call it 5,000 years have been pretty good to us. Mm-hmm. So I think now we're getting to a state of normal or normalcy on a global scale, where the weather becomes more extreme. So where we say, oh, this is extreme weather, no, it is no longer extreme weather. Really hot temperatures and really cold temperatures, massive superstorms, blizzards, flood events and all that. I think that's going to be our normal weather. Extreme weather will now be the mild weather. When you have like 25-degree days and no flooding. That's the extreme weather that we can look forward to now. The extreme weather
that will be rare.
Normal.
That will be the rare video. Yeah,
exactly, right?
Video.
So that's a Celsius change. A lot that's centigrade, not Fahrenheit. But more so than that, right? More so than that. What will it mean to civilization, Dave? I mean, most of our cities are at the coast. Okay, we are dependent upon a number of very finely tuned things for our survival. If the bees die, we will die. If our food supply is interrupted, we will die. If our electricity supply is interrupted, we will die. Not everybody, just the vast majority, right? And this is really where it becomes very critical that we are, in fact, prepared for these extreme, no longer extreme events, just normal events now. We have to change our life and our lifestyles. There's a huge, I saw this thing on TV recently, Dave. There's a documentary on the radio again, which reminded me. People are moving into self-sufficiency, canning, preserving food again in cans and in little jars and growing their own food. So there's this huge movement, especially in the Western world, towards sustainability and self-sustenance. Did you notice that?
Yeah, I have. And look, it's a good thing. By the way, just wanted to say that Hawk, the station owner, if you donate, I think it's $100, you get a seed pack, you get a whole bunch of stuff. That's for the survivalist, the people who are now becoming self-sufficient. Yes, I remember seeing this back in the 70s when the oil crisis came. The oil crisis meant that everyone was going to, have to do without. And a lot of people became self-sufficient. Then we ditched it all because the 80s said that you could have everything you wanted. And then we found that wasn't quite true. And you're right. You're right with the way that the climate's going. You're right with the way that the people are trying to disconnect themselves. They really are. They're trying to do all of these things to get themselves back to nature. Because what we've talked about this, Mekki, and it's 3 generations away from farming. Yep. And you have no clue when's corn meant to be sown. I don't know. When
at the right time. The answer
at
is
the right time. At the right time, exactly. But because we don't know anymore. I don't know when to milk a cow.
When it screams. You milk it when it screams, just like the wife when she's breastfeeding. Trust me. No, look, you're right, Dave. I'm being flippant. You're making a very good point.
But this is real, right? So
yes.
What is it? What is it that we've forgotten?
Well, we actually no. I don't think. See, this is the thing, and this is part of the larger picture we're trying to paint for you guys. This is an important component. We are not deliberately forgetting this because we want to. We have been moved away from it. We have been moved into urban living, into urban societies, right? It's a fairly recent development. Cities have been with us for quite some time now, but it is only now, or in the last, let's call it 50 to 100, not even 100 years, last 50 years, that the majority of the human population lives in cities. Now, not everybody lives in the city lifestyle that you and I have. I would suggest. A lot of slums. If you look at India, or anywhere within Asia, Africa, South America, but now even increasingly in the United States and in other developed nations, you have massive slum areas and cities. These are former rural dwellers. These are people that are coming from the country to find a better life in the city and failing miserably. So we are all moving into the city. Why is this? Now, my point here is this. We are deliberately being driven to that, okay? Because if you have population locked up in cities, you have them at your mercy. Because they are now dependent upon you, well, whoever's in charge, to supply them with food and water and utilities and services and security and all those wonderful things that we all take for granted these days. If we hadn't been pushed into cities, if we hadn't experienced industrialization to the scale that we have and still are to some extent, especially in the third world, the city lifestyle would never have taken off as it has. We are, in fact, living the wrong life, all of us, totally. We should be much more self-sufficient. We should be living in smaller communities. We should be living in harmony with nature as well. I know I sound like a greenie when I say this, but it's a fact. We're living in an unsustainable lifestyle, okay? And I think it's by design, Dave. That's my point. I think we were driven here on purpose. Mm-hmm. So we are easier to control and, believe it or not, easier to kill. It's a lot harder to kill a rural population because they're so spread out. Have you been to the farm belt in the States? There's miles between people. Man, you really have to try hard to kill everybody there. In the city, easy. Easy. I can release a biological agent. I can kill millions, right? That's also part of the bigger picture later on.
I'm hearing you. Vaubear from the chat room has just sent me an image. Remember, this is an interactive show. She sent me an image. This is... And I did see this, but I saw it on Facebook, and I've verified it from the news channels. And this is ice on a beach in Mexico for the first time.
Ha!
And I just, what? If there's nothing happening at all, I'd be completely surprised. So look, that's me on climate change done.
Actually,
yeah?
Did you see the Niagara Falls frozen
yes,
over?
Yes, frozen over. I think the last time was the 40s as well.
How crazy is that?
Yeah.
I mean, I looked at it, and I mean, it looks amazing, right? Don't get me wrong. It's beautiful to behold, but it's a scary thing.
I saw an amazing video, and anyone who's a friend of mine on Facebook would be able to see this, and it was the ice encroachment onto the houses that back onto the Lake Michigan, and because it was completely frozen over, and the ice was encroaching at about, say 1 meter per minute, and it was about a foot thick, and it came up over the top. It came up from the surface of the water, up over the land, down the little embankment across the backyard, and was pushing up against the back of the houses, and it broke through people's windows. This was ice. It wasn't cold enough to snow, and there wasn't any snow on the ground. This was just a foot thick of ice as the ice the ice expands when it's being created.
It's like glacial movement. I mean, that's exactly how a glacier moves. Yeah. It's a frozen river essentially.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
There's actually, I don't know if you saw that picture. I saw this picture from inside a building, and I guess this was some kind of utility door because it was a door we used to have in school with a handlebar, that closes in the middle. So it was the
emergency exit door.
And it was frozen. Like, so the inside the room was all normal, but around the door and the gaps and the hinges, there was ice intruding into the building. So the door was frozen. The same way it was shown in the movie The Day After.
That's right. The Day After Tomorrow.
Yeah, so we saw, I mean, not as fast, I'm sure, but the ice that would freeze the building and then ice over from the inside the doors. Well, that's what happened. It's polar vortex, just like in The Day After Tomorrow as well. There was a polar vortex that formed. Oh, well, this was actually an atmospheric vortex, but nonetheless, the temperatures fell significantly as well, which is very interesting.
I had I think maybe 5-hour discussion with one of my friends who neither of us had discussed the conspiracies and all the things that are going on. However, I think 4 hours later, we talked about everything there was, and we both knew roughly the same stuff. And I thought that was extraordinary because, I've met him before and we really haven't chatted about anything. And he gave me some new stuff and I gave him some new stuff too. And I just went, wow. And he's in the same demographic as us, Meki, and our demographic, 35 to 55. If you're inside or outside that, don't worry about it. We just know that from the YouTube people who watch the videos. We know sort of what countries it's a lot in the US. There's almost every country on the planet has people watching our videos, but the majority of them come from the US and England.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't find that video, Meki.
That's all good.
I'm looking for the screenshot.
On a slightly different note, thank you, Solaris, for two things. I don't know. Am I on video at the moment, Dave? Are we broadcasting?
Hang on. Yes.
Okay, great. So Solaris was kind enough to send me her DVD, her documentary called Eye of the Remote, a disclosure in covert technology. I'm holding it up to the camera. I don't know if you guys can see it. Here it is. I watched it. It's mind-blowing stuff. Be warned, though, if you're not familiar with things like MKUltra, mind control, Manchurian candidate type experiments, or the technology that's involved there, you might find the whole thing hard to believe. If you are familiar with it, then you won't find it hard to believe at all. but be warned, though, technology like that exists. Our brains work on certain frequencies. HAARP has frequencies that it tries to interfere with as well, as far as our brain is concerned. Weapons like that were deployed in Gulf War I and II to pacify the Iraqi, or even incapacitate the Iraqi soldiers. So it is important to realize that, yes, this technology exists. No, you can't buy it at Costco or Aldi. Or your nearest hi-fi shop. It is black technology. It's used by, secret government agencies, not just the United States. The Israelis are very strong in this. The Germans, to some extent, started it back in World War II, but their experiments going back further than that into Russia and Germany at that time. England had certain experiments there as well in the 19th century. And mind control, I guess, This is trying to bend someone to your will as well, right? This is what this is about. And this is just a very sophisticated way of doing it. So people do get transmissions into their head, okay? You can enter someone's dream state. You can do a whole bunch of stuff which you shouldn't. And it does happen. So if you want to do yourself a favor, watch the documentary that Solaris put together. It's very professionally done. It's very interesting to watch. And it's disturbing. And of course, as far as I know, and Solaris, I think, would support me here, no one has been brought to justice over that particular incident. It's mind-blowing, but it did remind me of one other thing. Now, the reason Solaris had a hard time putting this to court, and she has gone to court, is because it's black technology. It's technology that is not readily available and that most people don't even know exists, and the government denies exists. A similar thing happened at the Groom Lake facility, Dave. I don't know if you remember this, Area 51. A lot of workers got sick.
Yeah, they did get sick, and they got sick especially around the burning off of just the junk.
Yep.
And there was chemicals involved, and the poor people suffered greatly.
And
with that.
Died, some of them, right?
Yeah,
so they
died.
took them to court. There was a class action. I've got video footage of this.
Yep.
There's a class action against the Groom Lake facility. But this is the kicker. It was ruled by the court. I can't remember if it was a federal court or not, but the court ruled no. The government doesn't have to disclose what chemicals or other substances you were exposed to, Mr. Worker, because it's a matter of national security. So you're dying, but you don't know what treatment to go for because we cannot tell you what is killing you. That is horrendous.
Oh, I
right?
know.
But once again, such is the cynicism of our batters in the elite that it doesn't really matter. It's just a couple of worker bees. Who cares? Now,
hey, I'm just going to say I managed to put that image up next to you, Becky.
Excellent.
So
Fantastic.
yeah, that door, even the exit sign is starting to freeze over. And I had a discussion with one of my friends about it and in where I stated that the copper cables that power it would be the conductor of the cold. It's on the inside and it's starting to freeze the sign over. So think about, all the copper wiring in your house, how that would be conducting a cold inside. I think that's
because copper is a fantastic conductor for temperature.
Yeah, it is. It's not just heat. Remember, everything's heat compared to Kelvin. 0 Kelvin is the coldest. Everything else is hot.
Yes.
And so, therefore, it can transfer heat. It's got a good coefficient of heat.
Look, absolutely. That's really fascinating. There's one more shout out I have to give to Solaris. I know it's like a Solaris double show today. We later on in the show, David and I will discuss David Paulides, a gentleman whom I had not been aware of, but who has done some fascinating research. And Solaris, not Polaris, Solaris posted something, and I followed the link, and I asked her if it was okay if we mention it on our show and make a bit of a show of it, and she goes, yeah, absolutely, knock yourself out. She has, in fact, contacted him to come onto her show. I hope he will, and I'm putting it out to David as well, if you have the time, to our show. I mean, that would be awesome, maybe a double whammy. But we're going to talk about that a bit later. And thank you again, Solaris, for bringing that to my attention and, in fact, being cool enough to allow me to talk about this today, which is, we do have professional courtesy between the hosts here, and it's key that we do that. Otherwise, none of this is workable, guys.
Yeah, that's right. We can't have conflict. Hey, Mekki, I've been in touch with a fellow who's looks like we'll get an interview with him too, and he does the sketches of the aliens that people see.
Oh, wow.
And 30 years in it, I think it should be a pretty good thing. And I just want to once again shout out to all the debunkers out there. We'll give you an hour or two if you want it. Go ahead. I'm honestly tired of typing into replies where you believe climate change doesn't exist. Come on the show. Tell us all about it. Please.
Or any other debunking thing that you want.
It doesn't matter what it is, but just the most recent one, Mekki, was climate change. And
Did you feed the troll?
Yeah, I couldn't help it. I couldn't.
I thought you would have learned from me feeding the troll.
But you can't. You end up not being able to help it. I'm sorry.
No, you're right.
To all those people who don't. For all those people who are attempting as much as they can to deny that things exist, we say do your research, and we try to provide all the links that we can find in our show notes, so you can make your own mind up. But if your own mind means that you tell us that we're idiots, that's not it. Except for that Lucy lady, do science.
No. Don't use science anymore. She uses science as a verb.
Don't use don't use science anymore.
Oh, it's hilarious.
I
science all the time.
Yeah, I do when I stir my coffee in my Revolution Radio shiny side out mug.
Here we go. Get a mug.
Gotta get a mug, guys.
Yeah, baby, that's the mug.
Get a t-shirt too if you want. Hey, I just wanted to ask you, Mekki.
Please.
Are you ready?
I am.
What is today's show topic?
Right. Thank you, sir. So this is show 98, 2 shows away from 100. And to close the circle and to make you understand what it is we're talking about, today we're going to talk about magic. not magic parlor trick, not magic as in Harry. Oh, actually, I guess more so as in Harry Potter than anything else. But magic nonetheless. Magic real, magic misunderstood, magic hidden, magic. I guess cast away from the public eye and away from all of us. Magic. Also, David Paulides and his book Missing 411, nothing to do with 9/11. Fascinating research, and as I said, I didn't know he existed. I didn't know he had done this research. But you know what? This is the funny thing. What he has found fits hand in glove with the things that we've been discussing, specifically around the topics of missing persons and slavery. To some extent, you have all our visitor stories, as well as abductions, or third and encounters of the third, fourth, and fifth kind, as well as Bigfoot, dimensional travel, and a number of other, like even time shifts. The evidence he has uncovered, while he doesn't offer any explanations, he just puts it out there. He's a great researcher, spent years doing it, 7 hours. I think he logged 7,000 hours doing it. So those are the two topics, sir, that we're discussing. And magic is an important one, but it'll be the latter topic, because we probably have to do more magic next week. more magic. But yeah, so we're probably going to start with David Paulides. But Dave, just before we do that, what do you feel our topics bring to people? I mean, we've spoken about a plethora of different things. I mean, and seemingly unconnected, seemingly.
Yeah,
right?
seemingly unconnected topics, but in all reality, they're not unconnected. Whoever you are in Reno, Nevada, thanks for joining us. I have to say, Meki, out of all the shows that we've done, and all the topics we've talked about, I mean, we have talked about everything. Most of it, I have to say, is hidden information, the hidden history, the hidden everything. People that whether it's the government or it's science, or whether it's the education departments, or historians, archaeology, you name it. It's all hidden stuff. And it doesn't matter who lies. They're all lying. They're lying when they hide it.
Yeah.
And what's my take on it? My take is that there must be something that connects it all.
I agree with you, and in fact it does. And in fact, on show 100, we will tell you. Well, sorry. Now let me put this differently.
Big reveal.
We will tell you what we think. Right?
Mm-hmm.
We don't have a monopoly on truth. We don't pretend to know everything, but we've spent a lot of time looking at these things in isolation and together, and we've come to the conclusion, jointly and separately, Dave and I mean, that these things are connected. Most of the guys and girls that come on to our show, we ask the same question as well. Do you think that these things are linked? And the answer is yes, for the most part. I've been to a number of different conferences as well, Nexus and so forth, and the speakers approach topics from different angles. But when you talk to them or you have dinner with them afterwards, and they discuss things amongst themselves, you do see a meeting of minds, and you see that these secrets or conspiracies or mysteries or whatever you want to call them, all do tend to bleed into each other. There's a quote, and I forget who it was now. The more we try to pull apart things, the more we realize that everything is anchored together. This was a 19th century quote, and I cannot recall which scientist gave this to us, but I think that is true. And now with quantum physics specifically, right? If you look at what that shows us, I'm not pretending that I'm an expert at all, but I do understand enough to understand that the way we see reality needs a serious adjustment. And I want to bring in an example later when we talk about David Paulides as well. But yeah, so is there anything else we should cover off, sir, as far as news are concerned? I think we're good, right?
I know. I think the Bangkok. There's. Did you hear about the riots and protests in Bangkok against the government?
Yeah. Well, again, yes, I have. Yes.
Yep. So keep an eye on that. That's an evolving story. And there looks like there's going to be another coup. They don't know which way it's going to go yet. They're saying it won't be a terrible coup, but what coup is a good coup? I don't know. This is the same government. We're looking at the same thing that we're having trouble with. Who knows? Maybe this was, our government's doing, Meki. We don't know.
No. In fact, one thing we know, though, one thing we do know, and this comes from informed sources, there's no such thing as a coincidence. when it comes to politics, history. There is no such thing as a coincidence. Things go wrong, yes, but there's usually a plan. Okay, guys, when you see things unfolding in a certain way and you think, ooh, that's interesting, chances are someone thought about it and put something in motion to achieve a certain outcome. The Arab Spring, the Russian Revolution, the Iron Curtain, East versus West, the Gunpowder Plot, okay, all of those things, seemingly unconnected, seemingly random acts, all serve a purpose, okay, and the purpose largely was to bring us exactly to where we are today, right now. And this is the purpose. It's scary that someone has a vision that is that far-reaching. But bear in mind that these are entities, and we're going to talk about this in show 100, that have been with us for a very, very long time. Are they people? You know? I don't know. I don't know if they're people or not, but the point is they are definitely entities to reckon with. You know, again, it's hard for me to put this into words because I'm of two minds as to who they are exactly and how much power they have, because they're not all powerful. We still hold the power, guys. Okay, and we're gonna talk about that a bit as well in show 100, and how we have the power. Yes, sir. So, shall we delve into Mr. Paulides?
And did you know that 411 is a police call for information?
Is it?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Oh,
that's what it means.
Fascinating. Well, try it then. Is it so in the States or is it in Australia?
Oh, well, in America is the home of the numbered calls. They don't use them so much over here.
Yeah, that's the shame. I like 911, 411, you know, and all that. It's sort of, you know, the real number is 912.
I think 1011 or something like that is. I'll have to look it up, but I think it means where are you? Like what's your location?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, 10-4. Good buddy.
See, there you go. That's the 10 codes for the truckers.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Which means okay. So last time we spoke a little bit about slavery, and in fact the missing persons sort of comes into it as well, because obviously, you know, if someone is missing, then chances are they could have been sold into slavery. So we just want to quickly talk about missing persons and how they're defined, and how many missing people there are in the world. And then we're going to look at Mr. Paulides and what he has found, and I would love to talk to him. I yet have to get his book. But everything I've read and all the interviews I've seen and documentaries I've watched, it is a fascinating subject. It truly is mind-blowing. So this is a quote from Mother Teresa, which I thought was fitting for this. We ourselves feel that what we are doing is just a drop in the ocean. But the ocean would be less because of that missing drop. Now, it's symbolic of all of us. Each and all of us and every one of us is a drop in the vast ocean that humanity. Now, you take one of those drops away and we are less for it. I believe that is true. I believe every person that doesn't get to fulfill their destiny or their their life's span, life's work, whatever was in store for them is a wasted and a shame, a crying shame, a wasted opportunity. So yes, I do believe that every person is precious, and I believe every person has a role to play in this great, play that we call life. Now, how do you define a missing person, though? A missing person is a person who has disappeared and whose status as alive or dead cannot be confirmed, as their location and fate is not known, much like Schrödinger's cat. Laws related to missing persons are often complex, since in many jurisdictions, relatives and third parties may not deal with a person's assets until their death is considered proven and a formal death certificate is issued. I can attest to that. The situation, uncertainties, and lack of closure or funeral resulting when a person goes missing may be extremely painful and long-lasting for family and friends. Absolutely. If a person goes missing and the body is never recovered, and this is another thing that Mr. Paulides points out, even cadaver dogs can't take up the scent of these missing people, which is very strange. Now, of course, a person can go missing, you know, of their own accord. You know, they could be lost at sea or who knows. But there are some missing person cases, and I will talk about that a little later as well, which are just very, very strange, and it will feed into the bigger pictures, bigger picture as well. I'm thinking of Roanoke and the Marie Celeste, but I'll talk about that a bit later. Dave, there are reasons, of course, why people disappear. Let's go through these together, shall we?
Sure. So people disappear for lots of reasons, and some individuals choose to disappear alone. Most of these soon return. Reasons for non-identification may include to escape. That non-identification means to disappear. Love that promo. To escape domestic abuse, such as child, physical abuse, emotional abuse by a parent or parents, guardians, siblings, and spouses, or one spouse, even unless you live in Utah.
Yeah, well, or in the Middle East. Leaving home to live somewhere else under a new and assumed identity. Just a quick one on that. A few cases where this has happened, the person that was or that went missing didn't know they had another life. So sometimes you actually have memory lapses and you start a whole new life somewhere else.
Huh.
Yeah, interesting.
You could coincidentally become the victim of a kidnapping.
Yes, sir.
That's another one.
Also, an abduction, not of the third
Alien.
kind, or
Yeah.
not of the alien kind, not of the visitor kind, but rather of a minor by a non-custodial parent or other relative.
Oh, I see. That's the parent who's not living with the children, who takes them
Correct,
from
sir.
daycare to go bye-byes with them into a different state. There is seizure by government officials without due process of law.
That's called rendition. That's awesome. There's suicide, for example, in a remote location or under an assumed name to spare their families the suicide at home, or to allow the deaths to be eventually declared in absentia, so not to burden people with the knowledge that they had actually committed suicide.
Just that they went missing, yep. You could be a victim of a murder and the body disguised, destroyed or hidden. A shallow grave
sir.
comes to mind, hitchhikers, etc.
Absolutely. A very common cause is mental illness or other ailments such as Alzheimer's disease can cause someone to become lost, or they may not know how to identify themselves due to long-term memory loss that cause them forget where they live. It also causes them to forget the identity of family members or even their own identity. And I've actually a personal experience with this, not myself, but a friend of a friend, rather, who was found wandering kilometers away from their home and had no idea how they got there, or in fact, who they were at that particular point. They recovered a little bit later, but it was quite harrowing, I can tell you.
Wow. That's something else, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of those other things is sundowners. So instead of just an Alzheimer's disease, that you can have sundowners, be afflicted with it, and when you see something, you walk towards it. So you look out the window, you go, oh, there's the garden. You walk out there, you see the gate, oh, cool, and then you look down the street, and then you walk down the street, and you don't know where you were. You don't know how to get back to it. Yeah, so you can just, Mecca, we have alternatives to all those we've heard. Death by natural causes, say disease or accident.
Yep.
Far from home without identification. So, if you went down the street, or say you went to the beach and you went there by yourself, you left your ID in the car maybe or something, then you had some kind of mishap, you're not going to have anything on your person. When someone finds you, you get put in hospital. If you don't recover enough to tell people who you are, they won't know.
You're correct. John and Jane Does are quite common. There are also disappearances that take place to take advantage of better employment or living conditions elsewhere, essentially escaping your life.
I've got one for you as well. This is to do with the spousal abuse, but it may just be because of choice. How many stories have you heard where it says, well, he just said he went down the shops for a pack of cigarettes and never came back?
Yeah,
he didn't even smoke.
Oh, that's odd.
You can be, as we spoke about last week, sold into slavery, serfdom, sexual servitude, or other unfree labor.
Yes, sir. You can also try to disappear to avoid the discovery of of a crime or apprehension by law enforcement authorities. Now, believe it or not, here in Australia, we have a fairly large mining community. Obviously with BHP and Alcoa and Rio Tinto and all the other miners. I don't want to leave anyone out, but those are the big ones. And a lot of the guys that work on mine sites essentially have no past, right? They just go there and make to escape. Not all of them, but a large percentage to escape their life.
Mm-hmm. Pirates used to be the same thing. You could just get on board ship when it came in, and voila, there you go. Escape your previous life.
Yes, sir.
You could, however, as an alternative to that, join a cult or other religious organizations and disappear.
And in a similar vein, you could also try to avoid war or persecution during a genocide. At that point, I think disappearing would be an excellent idea.
You could, if you lived in Syria, you'd know what we're talking about, if you're listening, to escape famine or natural disaster. Or the government shooting everyone.
Yeah, that's
persecution.
Also, yes, sir. And so these are the reasons why people might go missing, right? This is probably not exhaustive, the list, but it certainly gives us something to work with.
Yep.
Now, we've scoured the net and we found some interesting effects about missing people, right? This is just a compilation of factoids, if you will, but they are very, very interesting. Once again, Dave, I think you and I should take turns
alternate.
and bring our
Let's
listeners
do
this.
it.
Very good. So every 40 seconds, a child goes missing in the United States.
Wow. When a child goes missing, the first 3 hours are the most crucial in finding the child safely. Approximately 76.2% of abducted children who are murdered are dead within 3 hours of the abduction. I laugh because of the order of those words. So if your missing child is killed, it's usually killed within the first 3 hours.
That's horrible. That is horrible. Shocking. Now, every year, more than 800,000 children are missing in the United States. Every year, 800,000 children go missing. Not all of them stay missing, but that's how many go missing.
Absolutely. In 1980, roughly 150,000 people were reported missing per year. Now the number is 900,000.
Yeah, so there's a trend there. Yes, sir.
What kind of trend is that? That's a terrible trend.
Yes, it is. We're going to talk about that as well. Approximately 2,300 Americans are reported missing every day. This includes both children and adults. This does not include Americans who have vanished in other countries, individuals who disappear and are never reported, or the homeless and their children. So we can assume that the number is actually higher than that. So 2,300 of your fellows in America, and I'm assuming that America and Europe would be similar, and Australia might be similar. There's a lot of people that go missing.
That is. We would have to have 230 at least.
Yes, sir.
I 10% at least, or we're 10% of.
Yes.
So minorities, those who suffer from mental disorders and substance abusers who go missing often receive little attention from authorities and little sympathy from the press or public.
Yep.
It's another reason not to have been found. No one photographs you. You don't get any press. No one can find out you're anywhere. And if the police and if the authorities don't care, because you're a substance abuser or you've got a mental disorder, they'll just lock you up. Someone will lock you up somewhere and you disappear.
Correct. Now, the next one worries me greatly. In most jurisdictions, meaning counties, countries, and so forth, states, missing person cases receive low priority. Authorities are already working homicides, robberies, rapes, assaults, traffic issues, and crime prevention. Missing persons just don't, I guess,
they don't rate,
count for very much. No, they don't rate.
They used to be on milk bottles.
Yes.
On the milk cartons, on milk bottles, on labels. That's a really good idea. I don't know the success rate in finding people, though. But it would have to be enough to warrant the continuation of that. Medical examiners and coroners' offices in the US hold more than 40,000 sets of unidentified remains. That number is large enough to represent a small city. But to think about this, that the remains, unidentified remains, well, 40,000 people, that's like 8 weeks. Seven weeks worth of people.
Yes, sir.
That isn't much.
No, but it's in the scheme of things, that's a lot of Jane and John Does that you can't account for. There are as many as 100,000 active missing person cases in the US at any given time at this point.
Wow. Of the 692,944 people reported missing in 2010, remember 692?
Yep.
531 were under the age of 18.
Yep, 531,000.
Yep.
Yes.
So I meant 692,531,000 were under
That's
the age.
disproportionate, isn't
Yeah,
it? If you
it
think
is.
about it.
Yep.
Also the most vulnerable in society, really, the
Exactly.
young ones. According to the National Crime Information Center, which is the NCIC, 355,000 women were reported missing in 2010 compared to 337,000 men. So there's a slight difference, but
It's 50-50 pretty much.
about 50-50, yeah, that's right.
Scholars note that the media focuses more on women, especially white women, who go missing because of society's apparent obsession with damsels in distress. In other words, people are interested in cases in which young, beautiful, often blonde girls have been abducted and are in need of rescue. This is called the missing white woman syndrome.
This when I saw this, I thought it explains so many things. And you know what? We can't step away in America and Europe and even Australia. We can't step away from that.
No.
It's in our psyche, especially if you're Caucasian background. It's horrifying, but there we are. Now the next number is horrible. It is estimated that at least 8 million children worldwide go missing each year. 8 million. And remember last week we told you that roughly 30 million people held in slavery, right, on the planet right now. And each year 8 million children go missing. Where do these 8 million children go? Again, something that we will talk about, maybe not today, but certainly going forward, because there's actually a reason why these people are going missing.
In most of the developing world, including Africa, Asia, and Latin America, no one is counting missing people, or missing children. Additionally, there are no specific laws on missing children, no established protocol, and no central missing child registries. Remember, I just think that is completely wrong. There should be. It should be a global one. It should be like, a global police list. There should be something. Pictures.
Yep, absolutely.
Everything.
Yep.
Something to say here. Sorry, Mekki. Something to say here is if you ever go anywhere, if there's ever a disaster, write in permanent pen on your child's arm your mobile phone number.
That's a good idea.
Right? Carry with you photographs of your children with you so that you can be reunited. Because
another good idea.
Because if you happen to want to claim your children, they'll say, sure, okay, how do you prove they're your children? And you're going to need proof.
Yes, sir.
Number 16.
And that's a fair point, and this is very important when it comes to these missing people. You have to be able to identify them and then claim them as your own. In 1998, and this is a good thing, the International Center for Missing and Exploited Children, that's the ICMEC, created the Global Missing Children's Network, a multilingual database that features photographs and information about missing children from around the world. So that's a good thing, guys. So at least it's being captured.
There is something. According to US legal definitions, a missing person is defined as a person 18 years or older whose disappearance is possibly not voluntary, or a child whose whereabouts are unknown to the child's legal custodian.
Yep.
These are all definitions.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, the interesting thing, there's some comparisons to the wars that America has fought in. Over 83,000 Americans are missing from World War II, the Korean War, the Cold War, the Vietnam War, and the 1991 Gulf War. So you've got 83,000 MIAs.
Why don't you read 18 as well, Mick?
That's not so interesting, but yes, okay. Of the 900,000 people reported missing each year in the US, 50,000 are over the age of 18. Half of missing adults are white, 30% are African American, and 20% are Latino.
Wow. Of the 16 million Americans who served in World War II, there are more than 73,000 Americans still unaccounted for.
Yep.
Wow.
That's just World War
Two.
Just World War II. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And more than 7,500 Americans remain unaccounted for from the Korean War.
Wow. Look, we do know that some set up home in those countries and never came back. They fled. They not Section 8. They went AWOL. Just never returned. Disappeared. More than 1,600 Americans remain unaccounted for from the Vietnam War.
Yep. So I mean, this is. I mean, I don't know if there's an effort underway to find these people or not. But I mean, if you watch Rambo, then they're held in stockades working for the man. May 25th is Missing Children's Day in the United States and in several European countries. It was established in 1983 on the anniversary of Eton Patz's disappearance. So that's an important date, guys.
I don't think we celebrate it. There's no Hallmark holiday for it, but certainly it'll be on my mind this year. According to the U.S. State Department, or Department of State, there are no statistics that track the number of Americans who go missing in foreign countries in any given year, or any year for that matter. The United Kingdom does, however, in 2008, 481 British disappeared abroad, in an increase of 401. So the previous year there was only 80 people that disappeared. The next year there was 401 from the previous year, and 336 compared to 2006. Look, that's something else, Mekki. I can't believe that so many people go missing.
Well, and this is really the point, and most of us don't know this because it is not widely reported in the media, and it's not widely reported in the media because nobody does anything about it. This is the only time you hear about a missing person if it's a high-profile case. Do you remember the British girl that went missing? I think in Portugal or Spain. This is 3 or 4 years ago. There was a big hoo-ha about that.
A big hoo-ha indeed.
The Lindbergh baby, and if it's a high-profile case, yes. But most disappearances, most missing person cases are either not resolved or just forgotten about in the first instance. And now this is people that have someone that cares about them. Think about all the people that don't have anyone, orphans or homeless people. Imagine how many more may just disappear there without anyone ever tracking how many are missing. So you have to ask yourself a number of questions. Where do they go? What happens to them? I mean, do they all meet, untimely end due to foul play? Are they used for some other sinister purpose? Again, the answer will be coming to you from us, or at least part of the answer, I guess, going forward. We've got our own ideas as to what happens to these people. In fact, if you're familiar with MK Ultra and some of the experiments and also, I guess, the underground bases and so forth, and the potential of visitors being there and that are not so benign to the human race, then you know where some of those disappeared go to. That have been, I guess, robbed of all of their rights, and where Guantanamo would seem like a nice holiday destination. So that's really the important thing to bear in mind here, that these people disappear, yes, but they don't just vanish into thin air, right? Something happens to them, and I'm not saying that there are all sinister disappearances. Some people may just, seek a new life, sure enough. I do believe, however, that a large percentage of people that disappear on the planet each year meet a very sticky end. We do know for a fact, and because magic is today's topic to some extent as well, we do know that especially young male children, end up in voodoo practices. Their body parts are being sold to the highest bidder. We know it happens in England. We know it happens in Africa. We know it's a common practice. We know that, for example, albinos in Africa are sought after and need protection. I saw a documentary because their body parts are considered full of juju, which is magical power. So there are a lot of things that are going on, guys, that we don't know about, that is never reported upon. And if it is reported upon, is forgotten very, very quickly because, I can't really be bothered, I guess. That's the attitude people take.
Do you know one thing, just before we go to break, Mekki, organ harvesting, people can be taken for that. I know that during the Olympics there was a case of twins who were there. They was having an elongated holiday. They were going to be holidaying before the Olympics, enjoy the Olympics. They had tickets, and one of the twins walked across the road to be taken a photo of in front of some big building, and the traffic got really heavy and thick, and he couldn't see his brother for a minute. And then when the traffic cleared, his brother was completely gone. Gone. I mean, gone. Ask the police, gone. Doesn't exist anymore. And we know, from what I understand about that story, all we know is that the Chinese government was doing a cleanup of the vagrants, of all of the homeless, and cleaning up anyone who was just standing around who didn't have papers. Unfortunately, that brother was the twin of another brother who had both their sets of papers on them. Yep. And so he had no papers, couldn't prove anything, and the government, all he hit was a stone wall. He hit a wall, he couldn't get his brother back out, and he's since disappeared altogether. So
it's crazy.
It really is crazy. So, I think we're going to hear the music any second. I want everyone to think about what it means to be missing during the break, and at the end of the break, we'll come back, this short break, and discuss some particular cases that I think you'll enjoy. Hold tight.
Radio at freedomslips.com. We'll be right back after this message.
This is Thomas, a.k.a. a Mad Painter. I'd like you to join me Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Open Canvas. Don't forget to bring an open mind.
Yes, folks, that's right. Bring an open mind to an open canvas. Again, that is Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern. UFOs to government corruption. This is Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
There is no denying the world is awakening. We see it in the global uprisings and demonstrations of the people around the planet and the new way of thinking and living that is arising naturally within each one of us and our communities. I have been a major player in this global shift and movement for over 20 years and have helped tens of thousands of people around the world change their lives and find their voice in order to help create the paradigm change we so desperately need. Join me here at Revolution Radio on the Just Bernard Show every Tuesday at noon Eastern Time for 2 hours of powerful interviews and discussion with some of the most influential visionaries of consciousness, alternative media, and suppressed knowledge. We promise to reveal the real matrix and empower your human experience.
Is your data safe? Do you have the necessary information to assist you in confidently living through just about any survival situation? Is survival and gardening, off-grid living, medical knowledge, or even natural or man-made EMPs on your list of personal concerns? Do you have your documents and your personal information in a safe place in your hands where you know where it is? Well, check out our preloaded EMP-proof thumb drive. Over 3 gigs of survival documents and how-tos, plus the USDA offline food preservation website, and much, much more, including a surprise bonus we just can't tell you about here. With plenty of room left over to store your most important documents. Imagine if a megavirus or a computer failure took out your bank, or all the banks for that matter. Are your banking records safe in your hands? So when they get things fixed and repaired, you can say, hey, look, this is what I had. You had it, I want it back. Is your personal data safe? Family records, addresses, phone numbers? Well, squeeze on over to freedomslips.com. Yes, that's www.freedomslips.com. Click the banner on the homepage for the EMP-proof bullet drive to get the full scoop of everything that we offer. So, folks, keep your data safe for your peace of mind. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here. Thank you for tuning in to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. If you plan to call in and speak with one of our hosts, please turn down your radio and separate yourself from any background noise and wait for the area code to be called on before you speak. And don't forget, Revolution Radio freedomslips.com is listener supported. So stop by the homepage, freedomslips.com, visit the site support area to help support the host you're listening to's airtime. Thank you. Revolution Radio freedomslips.com, where the truth never sleeps. Revolution Radio. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
You're back with Dave and Mekki Shiny Side Out on freedomslips.com. That's right, the #1 listener-supported talk radio on the net. Since it is listener-funded radio, if you like what you hear, please go to freedomslips.com and push the donate button on the site support page. It's on the left in the chat. Your donation is greatly appreciated and helps run this station. I just donated $10. Yay me. I'd like to say hello to all the new listeners we have today, and we are glad you're on board. Hello, whoever you were. I don't know who you are, but I saw someone on our website from Reno, Nevada. I know we've got some people watching live on the live stream, and if you go to, if you go to www.freedomslips.com, go in the jump in the chat, you'll see the link to the live broadcast in there. We are halfway through show number 98, Mekki, 90.
90 and 8.
And we're talking about missing people, and we've do magic a bit later, but we've got missing people going right now. And who's the gentleman, Mekki? Solaris shared with us, another host on Revolution Radio, shared with us a person through which we would gain a lot of information, and that's David who, Mekki?
David Paulides. A very interesting researcher whom I had not been familiar with myself, even though I've spent a lot of time looking at very similar things, but he's done some very specific and very interesting research. So, who is he? David Paulides received his undergraduate and graduate degrees from the University of San Francisco and has a professional background that includes 20 years in law enforcement, and that's 3.5 years at Fremont Police and 16.5 years at San Jose Police, and senior executive positions in the technology sector as well. In 2004, he formed North America Bigfoot Search, which is NABS. It's also a website there, nabBigfootSearch.com, where his investigative and analytical experience were invaluable in researching Bigfoot, Sasquatch sightings, encounters, and behavior. He spent 2 years living among the Hoopa tribal members, listening to and recording their Bigfoot stories. Now that's dedication, spending 2 years in the field. The Hoopa Project is his first book, based upon his experiences in the Bluff Creek area of Northern California. David's second book, Tribal Bigfoot, is a quantum step forward in Bigfoot research and allows for a common sense understanding of this elusive biped. These two books have been called the new standard for crypto research. Again, I'm astonished I didn't know more about him. And now NABS was also the group that started the Bigfoot DNA project, which was instrumental in the identification of Bigfoot Sasquatch as its own species. Okay. On March 1, 2012, David released his third book, Missing 411, Western US, the story of people who disappeared in the wilds of North America. And this is really where our interest came in. Many of the parents and relatives of the missing make claims that the victim was kidnapped or abducted in very remote areas, and that's well documented, those abductions or missing people. This 3-year, 7,000-hour investigation into unexplained disappearances in isolated locations is a book that anyone who walks in the woods should read. Okay, that's the advice here. Now, but the question really is, and the book asks very eloquently, is what is happening to these people? In March 2012, his fourth book was released, which is Missing 411 Eastern United States, and essentially it mirrors the stories that from the Western United States, again, disappearances in clusters. In 2012, Mr. Paulides was an invited speaker to the 2012 National Association of Search and Rescue annual conference in South Lake, Tahoe. The presentation was on the findings of the CAMAM project that were detailed in Missing 411. And since the release of the Missing 411 series, Mr. Paulides has been a guest on a number of radio shows, morning television, and primetime newscasts. And that's where I saw him as well. I saw some of the YouTube clips there. Very interesting research, very good guy. And the 411 series has been vetted by some of the best search and rescue professionals, investigative journalists, radio and television hosts, and print journalists from North America. So there's a lot of scrutiny that has his research has undergone, and everybody agrees that his research is impeccable. He has done the hard yards. In fact, he did first-hand research. He's not an armchair researcher. He has gone out there into the field. He analyzed news articles at the libraries where they're held. He's spoken to eyewitnesses. As I said, he spent 2 years with a native tribe in the western United States, the Hoopa tribe. So he has done the research. He has put in the hours, and what he has uncovered is very interesting. Okay, what happened to him was that a tip from a national park ranger led to this particular investigation. Okay, essentially, the park ranger came to see him one night while he was investigating or was doing some Bigfoot research, and said, "Look, there's something really strange happening in the parks. People are disappearing, and they're disappearing without anyone really finding anything out or investigating it, and they're disappearing at an alarming rate." And this is across North America. He has also found evidence that these disappearances are happening in other countries, not just in North America, other countries as well. And his research specifically depicts 28 clusters of missing people across the North American continent. And this has never been exposed before. But these clusters, these are geographic clusters where people disappear, right? 28
that's
of those.
so true.
Yep, 28 locations where people just disappear. Now you can actually compare this if you wanted to with places like the Bermuda Triangle, like the Devil's Triangle in the China Sea. And what comes to my mind, Dave, is the story of Roanoke, and a failed English colony. Well, failed. That's probably the wrong word. When like Roanoke was established, and then some years later, or even a year later, it might have been, more settlers came, more colonists came. This was in the 17th century, and found Roanoke to be completely deserted. No bodies, no sign of damage, nothing that would indicate a fight, or even bodies lying around, maybe having died from starvation or maybe disease. None of that. It just disappeared. Everything was still there. All the equipment, all the belongings of the people were still in the houses. The people were just gone. Never been solved, that mystery. The Marie Celeste. This is a disappearance which is ship related, correct, sir? The Marie Celeste was found floating in the Atlantic. Every soul on board was gone, including the talking parrot. Yeah, also missing. Interestingly enough, and so the ship that found them put a boarding party on board, and soon a fog bank came up and a wind blew, and the two ships were separated. The Marie Celeste was found again. Lo and behold, the boarding party had also disappeared. Okay, so so these geographical disappearances, these clusters, there may be some that are stationary, that the 28 seem to be.
Fog, Mekki.
Yeah, exactly, right? Exactly. So some of these clusters may not be stationary. Some of these geographical locations where people disappear may be moving about, and we're going to talk about that as well.
One of the things that I was getting from this is, yes, he's thorough. He's gone to the parks. He's looked at the eyewitness accounts. He's walked from the witness standpoint in the park to the point at which the child disappeared. In some cases,
Yep.
And it's within sight.
Yes. That's the scary thing. We're not talking about a child that has wandered away, is missing for hours. We're talking about a child, like you might have a picnic blanket on the ground and your car's parked 50 meters away, for argument's sake, right? The child goes missing on those 50 meters.
Yep. And some of these parks are in inaccessible terrain and there was no one else there. No other cars.
So,
you can't walk into the park from any other direction. That's the only way in and out. And yet this child was still able to disappear somehow, become a missing person.
yes. Yeah, so this is really very, very strange, right? And it appears though he claims, or the research seems to indicate that topography seems to play a part. Also, the age of the victims and certain clusters have specific age and sex consistency. So, like a certain geographical cluster will only have children,
males or children or women or a couple or something like that. Yep. One of the things that his books have is no personal opinion.
Yes.
That's what really stands this out from all other researchers. He does not suppose how it happens. He's just, for the first time, in the public view, has put the information together in a single place.
And he did so, and I gleaned this from all the things I found out about him on the net, watching different documentaries and newscasts. He has done so in the face of great resistance from the park authorities themselves. Now, the park authorities... Yeah, and the government, they don't want to release the missing person lists to him, or anyone for that matter. And in fact, they said, okay, we will release it to you, but it'll cost you $1.4 million. And that's ridiculous.
That was for the whole North American parks, wildlife parks, yep.
Yeah, so first they said, no, we don't have those lists, which of course...
They don't exist, yep.
Yeah, it's obviously wrong, you know.
And who was it, Mekki, that rang him back when he made his first inquiry by letter? He was told, no, there wasn't any information of the sort. He made a second one worded differently because he thought maybe they thought he was just mucking around, but he worded it properly and, for a government. And that came back with a no. But it was followed by a phone call, and the phone call was from a lawyer.
Yes.
On behalf of the wildlife parks, requesting the $1 million for the list. And how much was it for just the park he was interested in most? I think that was 34.
I think it was 75 or 80,000. It was a ridiculous number.
Yeah, it was still in the thousands, and
in the tens of thousands.
And it was preventative because he doesn't have the money.
Well, the thing is this: you would think that this kind of information,
like the census,
some of it should be it should be in the public domain. It should be under freedom of information. You should be able to get it, right? But anyway, he can't, or he didn't. So that's really, really very strange.
And why a lawyer and not just a public servant would ring him back is also beyond me.
See, I think that the authorities, the people that are on the ground there, not the rangers necessarily themselves, because obviously it was a ranger that alerted him to this, but certainly the people that are, I guess, let's call them senior management, they certainly seem to have an idea that something is going on. And don't forget, these clusters of missing people goes back to the 1800s, at least, maybe even further. But that's when we started our records, newspapers, and so forth, right? So the disappearances may go back further. And one thing that I don't know about, though, I was curious to see if the local people, the local Native Americans, have special, I guess, taboos about going to these places. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yes, that would be some interesting information.
So I want to see if I can find out something about that, because obviously they would have been exposed to that kind of thing a lot longer than the the Americans that are there now.
Well, quite similar to the Bigfoot experience, that the native people knew all about it anyway.
Yes,
like
now,
the crying woman.
Linked.
Yep.
These are linked. See, this is and again, Dave. Thank you for bringing us to the Bigfoot. These disappearances, in some cases, when the people were found, for the most part, the people are entirely clueless. Like when they're found, right? Usually they're found disrobed. Their clothing is usually neatly folded.
This is where we're going to. Yeah.
So and sometimes it looks like they just melted out of their clothes, so they just fell into a neat heap. And sometimes when there was memory of the thing, that this one case, a woman remembers a large hand reaching out of a bush to come and grab her.
And she had a hand mark
Yes.
when she was found.
Correct. That's exactly right. So like, and she didn't imagine it was definitely there. So
She said it was a
Bigfoot
large
phenomenon-
hairy arm. That's right.
yeah. The Bigfoot phenomenon, the disappearance phenomena. These phenomena seem to be linked. They seem to be coinciding, and they also seem to be indicating some kind of disorientation that is happening. Some kind of, and I'm going to put it here, and this is what I was going to talk to you about.
Here he goes. He's
I
gonna
want to
do
give you, I want to give you an example of Flatland. Do you remember Flatland?
Completely.
Great. So Flatland is a two-dimensional world which is inhabited by triangles and squares and circles, and they live in 2 dimensions happily ever after. Okay? 2 dimensions only. Flatland. If a third dimensional being would intrude upon Flatland, the Flatlanders would only be able to see, like, for example, if a cube came to live in Flatland, the Flatlanders would only perceive a square, because that's all they can. These are the only dimensions they can see.
And the square's side only.
Correct, sir. Correct. Now, if you were to take a Flatlander out of Flatland, lifted the Flatlander, as it were, into a 3-dimensional space, the Flatlander, in my opinion, would be extremely disoriented. He would have, or she, visual and sensory inputs that they would have never had before. They would receive information they cannot process because there is nothing comparable in their experience. And that's how we process information. I mean, learning new stuff is good when you're a child, not so easy when you're older.
I see where you're going with this, so that the sensory overload causes a non-recording effect.
Correct. It is just too much. We can't comprehend it. If you, and I'm gonna make the leap now into our world. Like, we're living in a 4-dimensional world. Like, I'm talking about a 3-dimension as well as duration. So we've got the time dimension, right? Now, if we were lifted out of our comfort zone, which is this box we live in, into a higher dimensional space, or I'm going to call it space for want of a better word, we would not understand what it is we are exposed to. We would try to make sense of it, but we couldn't. And chances are, unless we're extremely advanced in our mind, chances are that we cannot comprehend what is going on, and our mind may simply shut down. It may simply deny the existence of that sensory input. Bear in mind that we only see a very small part of the reality that we live in anyway, right? It's a very small spectrum of visible light, very small spectrum of frequencies we can hear, touch, feel, and so forth, right? We are very limited already. But imagine if something or someone lifted us out of this dimensional reference, okay, or environment, into a higher dimensional reference or environment. And what seems to be happening here is that these people are in fact completely disoriented and have no memory when they are found. I'm talking about the people that are actually found again. Have no memory of what happened. So it seems, and again I'm speculating here, that inorganic matter can't travel to wherever they're going, so that's why the clothes are left. I don't know about electronics or watches or rings. There's no mentioning of that. I would imagine they probably fall apart as well, or fall to the side, and are just neatly put down as well. So it is only the organic that can travel through wherever they're going.
Do you know, Mackie?
How is this?
Yep. Go ahead. Ask the question.
Go. No. Go.
How is it even possible? I think is really where you're going with this.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Mackie, there was a case of witnesses are extremely rare in his 411 books. Yeah, the witness.
Yes.
So there's people that were there, but they didn't see anything. Only the person who has the handprint on herself and claims a large hairy arm pulled her into the bushes away from everyone to disappear. Well, there was a case, and this is I think a Pennsylvania man, Northumberland in Pennsylvania. There was a fellow who said to his wife he's going to go up to the mountain. His name was Todd Sees, Todd Sees. He said to his wife he was going to go up the mountain and check on the cattle or something. He had cattle up there, and he's going to check on them. And he drove on his quad bike up the mountain and was gone. He was going to be gone most of the day. This is the Montour Ridge, a mountain stretching 20 miles east of where he lived. And he went up the hill and was gone for a long time and just never returned. Search parties went out looking for him, couldn't find him. Helicopters, and eventually they did come across him, well, what remained of him. But there were witnesses to this, and they were fishermen on the other side of the mountain, mainly, who didn't know what they were seeing. They saw a UFO. Sorry to bring UFOs into it, everyone, but this is what the story is. I'll paste the link into the chat room so you can discuss that about yourselves later on after the show. He was seen to be, there was a light came down out of the UFO, and a person was looked like a man. They describe being lifted up into the spaceship. They eventually did find his body. He's in a different story than I've pasted, but this is from MUFON that I pasted in. There was his left upper arm was crushed, and they didn't understand anymore. The witnesses saw this. There eventually more witnesses came out about seeing it, but the FBI quickly took over the investigation and shooed everyone away, then told everyone nothing happened. So he was a missing person, and though they couldn't find a cause of death. So it's one of those things. He was found eventually. If you happen to go missing in a park and there aren't any witnesses, no one sees a UFO and sees you being lifted up into it quite alive, and a search party can't find you, and you don't return, or they return you somewhere else and no one finds you, and wolves or whatever it is, disperse your dead body and your bones and overgrowth or whatever disguise where you lay, you'll completely go missing. If it's the Bigfoot thing, then that's a whole different message. I've seen videos where they look like the Sasquatches are trailing people, hunting people. In Australia, the best example of that is when all the adventurers decided to walk across 3,000 kilometres of desert with teams of horses and people. The Aboriginal people of Australia tracked them the whole way, went into camp while they were asleep, checked them out, made sure they were healthy, and then backed back away. The people crossing the countryside had no indication that these people were there. None at all. And only when they perished did they sometimes come in and help. Otherwise, it was the stupid white men for not understanding the terrain they were in. They had to bring all their own food, but here's the Aboriginals living off seemingly nothing. So it is possible in even an open environment to be tracked, let alone a wooded forest or inaccessible terrain. And if you watch Finding Bigfoot, everything seems to be inaccessible in the US, especially where they like to be. So, I see the connection here. He's not putting this together as that fact. David is putting it together as pure information only, and I really respect that. And if we could ever get him on the show, it's going to be an amazing interview.
Oh, look, I agree. I agree absolutely. And look, these are fair points. And the thing is this, again, and this is not just about missing people here. This is about the strangeness surrounding these missing people, and the strangeness that you would think would be cleared up once they're found. No, when they're found, it gets stranger, right? This is really the point here. Mm-hmm. And Dave, bringing in Bigfoot and UFO, I think is very necessary because, in my opinion, again, these are all linked. I mean, the reason that Bigfoot has been so consistently elusive is because I think Bigfoot, Sasquatch, whatever you want to call this particular creature, and maybe not creature, but certainly personage, may be able to make use of technology or sciences that we don't know, understand, or have forgotten. They may very well be able to, and this is Chinese head out stuff, tinfoil head. They may very well be able to sidestep dimensions. I mean, why not? They may very well be able to disappear at will. Again, it's the large dogs, the large black dogs. They seem to, or large black cats, together with Bigfoots. UFO sightings together with Bigfoots. I'm talking. Bigfoot is my collective term for Yeti and Alma and Sasquatch and all the other hominids we have identified in other shows. So this particular research is just another piece in the puzzle that we have to complete the full picture, or at least we're attempting to complete the full picture, and it fits nicely because yes, those mysteries play very much exactly into the same vein that Dave and I have been discussing. We're not trying to make this fit into our theory. This is just more proof that something not quite right is going on this planet, solar system, universe. Who knows, right? And we're going to talk about that as well going forward. The key thing here, though, is bloodhounds, cannot pick up a scent, right?
Yeah, that gets me too.
Right?
That was one of the when I read that, when I saw that, I was astonished.
Right? Now, cadaver hounds don't pick up a scent either. Now, this is unusual because these dogs, that's what they do. Right? Their world is all smell, and it's much stronger than ours. And okay, the claws are there, but the body still leaves a scent as it moves along. Usually, when people are found, they're found near water. Okay, again, that goes with another theory of mine that water is somehow a substance that traverses dimensions easily. I could be totally wrong, but I think water is a very, very, very special substance. It's in fact, in nature, it's the only substance that expands both when you heat it and when you freeze it. There's no other substance that we know of that expands both heated and frozen. So again, and plus without water, of course, there'd be none of us, because we need it for life, and all that wonderful stuff. So water is and it seems to have memory as well. Water seems to have memory. We haven't done a show on this yet, but there's some experiments that were done by a Japanese gentleman, and he showed us that water seems to very much have memory, and you can damage water, and you can also repair water with your thoughts.
Wow.
You can repair water with your thoughts. That's crazy stuff, right?
We're going to have to get that guy on.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a whole
Mickey,
different show.
Mickey, yeah, it is for another show. Did you know what I've seen people try to evade. This is during the police dog chase scenario where there's an escaped villain or something, or someone, a prisoner who is trying everything. And I've seen shows on this where they rub themselves in mustard or whatever it happens to be. They coffee grounds. They swim through a river. The dogs find them.
Yes. Because they pick up the scent again.
The scent sits on the top of the water, and they're still able to get you, even an hour later. Even after swimming through water. You think, that would wash all your scent off. Nope, does not. And with 1,000 times, the sensitivity of our nose, that like you've said, Mackie, it's something else. And the only explanation that I can put there, with my tinfoil hat on, I'm going to have to wear one, is that they weren't there. That the bodies, the person truly disappeared. Maybe they got beamed up.
Yep. Now, I'm going to throw something else in here, right? And this is something that needs to be investigated a little bit. Yeah, this is well beyond tinfoil hat now. Do you remember how we spoke about white gold powder and occurring naturally?
Yes.
And this gentleman in Arizona had it just like it was literally lacing. His land was laced with it, and he didn't know what to do with it. And he saw flashes of light once in a while when it was really hot.
Yes.
Right, like when the substance was heated. Now, okay, we established that it seems that white gold powder, when heated to a certain temperature, disappears. Okay, and okay, I'm going to put it out here. Is it possible that those particular 28 spots, clusters, whatever, I'm not saying it is, I'm just saying it's a possibility, has high concentrations of white gold powder that may, when the temperature is right, cause dimensional rifts into which one could stumble. Now, it doesn't explain necessarily the clothing, unless, of course, you believe that only organic material can traverse these dimensional bounds. But again, it's just another explanation which is way out there, right? And I'm not claiming this to be true, but it's certainly something to think about, guys. Now, of course, you have to do the research and test those sites for these chemicals.
And also look at the weather to see whether it was sunny on that day or not. What was the temperature?
Correct. So, but okay, let's summarize just very quickly where we are with this. Okay. People go missing in parks, not just in the United States, but elsewhere as well. There seem to be geographic clusters, and these disappearances seem to follow similar or the same pattern. They also seem to be age and gender specific. People with disabilities are also sought out here, which is very interesting. People that are found after they have been missing have no clue what happened. Zero, none. And are disoriented not quite sure what the fuss is all about. This is actually very much like the dimensional travelers we discussed, or supposed dimensional or maybe time travelers we discussed in previous shows.
That's
a man,
right.
Who spoke a language nobody else could understand. Another man who landed in Japan with a passport from a country in Europe that doesn't exist.
And a language that doesn't exist.
Correct. So these are anecdotal pieces of information. Yes, absolutely. There's no empirical scientific study underway that looks at these people because they are so few and far between. And chances are that if there were more of them, they'd all be locked up anyway. Okay? So if they're locked up, you dismiss their story immediately, right? You would never hear about it. Oh, I've traveled dimensions. Oh, beep, 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 beep. Off you go into the pen cell. And that's our normal reaction to things these days, right? Because we have been led away from the mystery. We've been led away from the child's delight in unknown things. Mm-hmm. We've been civilized. We live in cities now. You see, that's what we do. 100 years ago, 200 years ago, that person would not have been locked up immediately. No. It is only recently that this would have happened. Mm-hmm. Now, so. In fact, Charles Ford said that we should look at our asylums and see how many dimensional and time travelers we find. So we have these. So what I'm saying is, and Dave, I think as well, is we're saying to you that maybe these guys have stepped into another dimensional space, a higher dimensional space they couldn't comprehend. They were there for whatever reason. Was it an accidental? Was it a natural thing they fell into, like some kind of natural rift? Was it a deliberate act that someone took them? Maybe. Mm-hmm. In some cases, certainly there was some kind of other personage involved, and the lady had the hand print on her. But it also shines a whole new light onto the Bigfoot phenomenon, right? Personally, I'm with Lloyd Pye. I believe that Bigfoot, Sasquatch, Yeti, Alma, blah blah blah, all those guys are in fact the true inhabitants of this planet, the true descendants of Homo erectus and Homo habilis and so forth. Not us. They are the ones that are in fact Homo giganticus as well. They are the descendants, not we. We are something else, and they may very well have very high intelligence. They may be more intuitive than we are. But and as we speak about this as well, more and more human species are discovered. More and more. There seems to be a third and fourth stream in our tree that we can not account for now, right? There's Homo florensis. There's a few other. I forget now. It's a name of a place. But the point is, it is no longer just Homo neanderthalensis. It is no longer just Cro-Magnon and Homo sapiens. There are a whole bunch of other human being species that have made up our tree in the past. Okay, and we are just one of them. In fact, I think we are the one that has been engineered to a certain extent, because all of our genetic material or DNA seems to indicate that we're pets. Right? We have more in common with pets, or DNA has at least, than we have with animals in the wild.
I wish our owners had come back then.
Maybe they never left. So these Bigfoot creatures may very well be somehow associated with what we call UFOs and underwater objects as well. I mean, don't make no mistake, they are unidentified flying objects. Yes, they are also unidentified underwater objects. Or okay, so
USOs.
Marine objects. Yeah, correct. I don't think, guys, we'll have a lot of time for magic this week. Because this topic has led us far afield, but it's important that we incorporate it into the wider picture. So magic will definitely be on the agenda next week, because magic will tie a lot of these things together for us. I know you probably laugh at us, and you may have laughed at some of the other topics, but I can tell you this. Think of magic as just another energy. Do you see electricity? I mean, ever? I mean, except for light. When you maybe plug in the wrong plug into the wrong hole, you never see electricity. Do you see the television waves that are coming to your TV? And do you see how that is then converted into a picture you can watch? I don't think so. Magic, in my opinion, works in a similar way. I'm talking about real magic. Magic that can be used to alter things, to change things, to be used, as it were. It's just another form of energy we haven't fully understood yet. X-rays. Do you understand X-rays? Why? What is Dr. Röntgen? What did he do? And X-rays are called X-rays because they're a ray that wasn't identified at the time. That's why it's called an X-ray. Mm-hmm. Okay, it's just X as in mysterious ray. So and radioactivity. Marie Curie, do you think she chose to die of radiation poisoning? They had no clue what radiation poisoning was.
Did you know,
but
Becky?
It's stuff we learn.
Did you know, Becky, that if Madame Curie, Madame Curie, if she existed today, and we didn't have radiation, but because of the media, the social media, and the science community, which is held so tight in locked arm, thanks to Lloyd Pye, quote, they would say that whatever she discovered, because she's not a scientist, because she has no peered review paper, she hasn't been, I think she might have been at university, but she never studied radioactivity, so how could she announce that it exists?
In fact, she never, and that's the thing, she never built her expertise on existing expertise, right?
That's
so where's
right.
the research that you built your research on? It doesn't exist because it's new. It's new. Oh, no, we don't do new. Sorry.
And this is what's really funny is today there is the resistance all over again, because that was more the age of astonishment. You could show someone that you did something awesome. Everyone went, wow, cool. They ignored everything else about you. It didn't matter. Everyone was trying to put two chemicals together to make something else. Everyone was trying to find gold. Yeah? We know you can put lead in a nuclear reactor and create gold. You can. It's just too expensive. Yeah. And you can't touch the gold.
Well, you shouldn't.
It's a terrible thing. So that's what's really weird. Now, Meki, there was a news flash today about the uranium that was found in a mine in South Africa.
Right, yep.
Which had already got U-233 extracted from it. Mm-hmm. And they found the stone reactor. The reactor was nearly a mile across, which dwarfs everything that we have these days, and that it was only found because they found yellow cake, uranium,
yep.
And they exported it to another country and said, "Oh, this is useless. There's no U-233 in there." And they went, "What do you mean? We dug it straight out of the ground. Come, you have a look." And they had a look, and this is the news flash, is that then they found the reactor, and they said that the reactor is something like 1 billion years old.
Yep.
On Earth. And it's one of those things, Meki. It's a news flash. I forgot all about it, but it's one of those things. So, just sort of merging that into what we've been talking about is, once again, the hiding of information. No one wants anyone to know anything. No one will approve any changes to any of the existing information that we know about, because that's been set in stone now. That can't change.
That's exactly right. You keep going. Yeah.
Yeah. So the thing that that really struck me about that was, well, why aren't they telling anyone? You know me, let's get the information out there. I don't care. Yeah, I know our
Which
audience
makes you public
likes
enemy
it.
number one, Dave. You're a thought criminal. That's what you are.
It. That was the last broadcast you did. But to be honest, yeah, it frightens me. So there's a world of people that don't want information to come forward. Fine, good for you, whatever your agenda is. An agenda can only, like the troll argued, an agenda isn't a single person, it is a plural. It's for a group of people. A single person has a goal, a group has an agenda.
Yep.
And for whatever that agenda happens to be, I don't know. But they created, and the people, our society is created for us. There isn't even a glass ceiling on it. It's solid. We can't rise above our society. We can't achieve more than our society allows us to achieve, because every single person, you're not on air right now. There you go, Mecca, you're on air. Look, Mugs, every single person can only live within their little container that we've got. That's created by the governments, the media, just your day-to-day life, and they make it so that's really important to you. It doesn't seem important to the people who are trying to push it forward, because if you and I right now created free energy right now, if by twirling this I was able to create gigawatts of energy in my hand and apply it somehow to something, I'd be labeled a kook straight away, regardless of being able to replicate it. And so where does that go? Where does that? If we live in a society that doesn't want to listen to this stuff, if they don't want to know that it's there, if they want to silence it, and worse still, buy it up and make it disappear.
Yeah, Dave, it's a matter of comfort.
Yeah.
You have to understand, and the elite has understood this always about us, human beings. Mm-hmm. And this is really how they have gained all this power. All we want is bread and games, really. Now, what that means is that we want to, like, the bread represents your food, your comforts, your home, your hearth, all the things that you need to exist. But then you also need entertainment. And that's something the elite has always provided us with. They've always given us more or less enough to survive, and then enough to distract us. Make no mistake, wars fall under the same category. Mm-hmm. They were entertainment. You know that in the olden days, people used to take picnics. Like I'm talking about, certainly during the Civil War as well in America, people used to take picnics to watch the battle, because the battle was confined to the battlefield. There were two sides fighting each other, quite civilized. Well, as far as that goes, and it didn't involve any civilians. The civilian casualties are a relatively new thing. After the 30 Years' War, 1618 to 1648, Europeans got together and they all had civilized wars, right? Before that war was barbaric, everybody got killed, blah, blah, blah. After that horrendous 30-year war, there was an agreement reached to some extent to have civilized wars, which means truly just battlefield wars. Soldiers fighting soldiers. For 300-400 years, that's how it worked. And it was entertainment for the masses. Circus Maximus, entertainment for the masses. The Greeks had their theaters as well and their sports, and there was also entertainment again. So it is the human, nice Mark. It is human nature. It is human nature that we are fighting here, right? But again, we were made this way, guys. We were made this way. I think we were made to be creatures of comfort. We were made to crave certainty in our lives, right? Change is the one thing that people are most afraid of and will most resist. Change is the one thing that will have the most resistance over everything. Overt or covert change, doesn't really matter. Because it is unknown. We don't like unknowns. We don't like to think outside the box. A few of us do. Few of us feel comfortable with it. Few of us get the human race moving forward. It's never we talked about this before, Dave, remember? Mm-hmm. It is never the great mass of people that moves us forward. It's always the few that drags everybody else along under great resistance. Yeah, and that's really what defines us.
Yeah, most of the new inventions are actually created by mavericks or uneducated people who haven't been taught you can't do it.
That's right.
I just want to remind everyone, the electric car was created before the first petrol-driven car. Can you imagine what we'd be driving around now with if they had 120 years worth of evolution on an electric car?
Look, think about what would happen to our air transport if the Hindenburg disaster hadn't happened.
We'd all be in inflatables.
Yeah, but how cool would that be?
I know.
Anyway, we'd be living in a very different. We'd be living in the steampunk world, I think. But
I love steampunk.
I love steampunk too. And you're right, Dave. You're right. It is the people that either haven't been taught to the limits, or choose to ignore their limits, or the limits we put upon them. And it's always the few thinkers that get us moving forward. And this is really important as well, because the elite, which is not numerous, not very many of them, right? I think, have always been able to count on us to be on the side of ignorance. We rather err on the side of ignorance than put ourselves out there. We would rather not help someone and be okay ourselves than put ourselves in harm's way. That's human nature. It's unfortunate, but it's true. And we also like to believe the big lies. We love the lie because it is comforting. If people were told the truth, they would feel discomfort. If people understood the banking system, they would feel discomfort. If people understood how the stock market worked, they would feel discomfort. If people understood the truth and the reality of international relations, they would feel discomforted. If people understood the truth of terrorism, international crime, politics, realpolitik in this case, they would feel discomforted. So they like to live in what we like to call the illusion. Okay? They like to live in a comfortable world which is filled with advertising and snacks and new cars and a condo and a holiday every year. That's the world people like to live in. The people that don't live in that world, the vast majority, don't count because they don't have the power. Mm-hmm. We have the power. We're educated. We have the power. We can actually do things. We fuel the global machine that is the elite. We provide the workforce. We provide the education. We provide the educated workforce. We provide the soldiers. We provide the force. All right, the general force. The real power base for the elite comes from the educated masses, like in the first world, America, Europe, Australia, increasingly now China, Japan as well. Even though China is playing its own game. Okay, we are propping up the elite. We have bought into their lie. We have made a conscious decision, most of us don't know this, to buy into the world as it is. I've spoken to people. Why do we live the way we do? Why? It's no good. Oh, well, it's just the way it is. No. Why do you have to go to the bank? And I've said this before. Why do you have to go to the bank to get money to buy a house? The Amish don't. The Amish get together and build a house. Why don't you do that? Oh, it's just the way things are. Ah, right. Why do you have to go to work every day and to work for someone else to get money to buy the things that you need? Oh, well, it's just the way things are. No. It's the way we have allowed things to become. Mm-hmm. It's the way we have allowed things to become. It is not the way things are. It's not the way things are meant to be. It's not the way how things are elsewhere on this planet right now. Again, the Amish, self-sufficient. They want to build a house. Guess what? They all get together and build a house. Boom. They want to eat butter. They make it. They want to eat beef. They kill a cow. That's life as it should be.
But
make your own decisions.
Do you know what, Mekki? I'm going to draw what we are.
I love your little whiteboard.
We are this, Mekki.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. We are the floor on which the elite stands. That is exactly right. And that's all of us.
We are doormats.
Yes.
Who have allowed everything that we currently complain about to happen.
Yes. You're right. Government for the people, by the people. I don't think so. There's government for the rich. If you're rich, and there were some news stories that broke last week and the week before about banks being fined, and because they were laundering drug money. or other things as well. You know, they were fined in the amount of maybe 5 days profit, which is still millions of dollars, but in the scheme of things, is nothing. So there's one set of laws for us, largely for us, right? There's actually people less than us as well in the third world, and there's a set of laws for everybody else who's super rich and super powerful, and there's no laws at all for the elite. The elite does not have a set of laws. The elite, and you don't know who the elite is, trust me, you don't know who they are. The elite does not follow anything but what they want to do.
Completely.
There's nothing governing. They do whatever takes their women fancy. And I'm not saying the elite is not divided amongst itself at all. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that there's nothing that I can see that governs them, except potentially self-interest and the need to stay the elite. Okay, those are the things that they need to do.
Well, just like the government, they
and
always
this
want to
is-
stay in government.
Yeah, you know, the human society that we have, which is really just human, is a microcosm of what we are exposed to, right? Trust me, the government that we have has no power. The people we elect or seem to be seeing in power have no power. Even the heads of companies and corporations, they have no power. There is a hidden hand. And I know people will call me crazy, and they will say that I've got cognitive dissonance, which is, I find that great. Cognitive dissonance, meaning essentially that I'm
You want to be
schizophrenic and
separated.
crazy.
Yep.
But I don't. The hidden hand can be seen very clearly if you look at history in its totality. Look at the architecture. Look at the archetypes we've carried with us for thousands of years. Look at all of that. But really look at it. And then you will see the hidden hand. All right, which we will talk to you about in show number 100. Sorry, I had a bit of a diatribe there.
Hey, no, you know what? When you got the floor, and if it's rolling, let's just do it. I've been doing nice little diagrams.
I love your whiteboarding there, sir. That's
Did
quite
you like the doormat?
great.
We are
I love
doormats.
the doormat,
We're
yes.
doormats
Now,
that vote.
For all you guys listening to this on YouTube, you can actually watch this broadcast with Dave and I live as a video feed as well. And it should be in our archive, right, Dave?
Yeah, the moment we cease this broadcast, it'll be in the archive. Not just will it be live, but it'll remain. And we've only got another minute, Meki. I wanted to say, look, we'll probably do. What are we going to do? Magic next week?
We certainly are, which will conclude everything that we wanted to talk to you about up to show number 100.
Awesome. That
Yes, sir.
is awesome. And don't forget.
If we don't have show number 100, then something went wrong.
Oh, you know, I love doing this. I urge everyone to donate to the station like I have today. I can say I have because I did. And you know, I'd like to drive some people to our website, shinysideout.net. And if you like the mug that both Meki, this is the 500 ml or the 20 ounce. Meki's got the smaller one. If you'd like one of those, get one. Buy a t-shirt either way. Or message us. Our contact details are there. We'd like to say thank you so much to Hawk and Revolution Radio. We'll see you next week. Shiny Side Out. It's goodbye from me. And it's goodbye from him, Meki.
See ya. Bye.
See you guys. And broadcast.